Oh, just a part of a real human being. And we talk a lot in Unity about that balancing point of the divine, as I would call it. That space where we are embracing our divine humanness, where we are creating spaciousness for us to show up with our foibles and our preferences and our stories and our pain body and all of that, but that we can see through that to the very heart of God that each of us are. And that's part of the agreement that we make in being in spiritual community. It's a willingness to be that container of love. And through these past 7 weeks, what we have really been looking at is how are we invited both individually, but also collectively to think again, so that we truly can be a presence of compassion, so that we truly are a place, a space of forgiveness and growth and evolution and more joy. Because that's what unity is all about ultimately, right? More joy. Can I get an amen for that, please? Right? And so there's this personal journey that we're each on, but there is also this collective journey that we are all in it together. And so this idea of rethinking isn't just about what's going on in my own personal life. It's also about how do we as a community want to reimagine and re-envision our future. And so it's a collective opportunity to rethink. It's an opportunity for all of us to come together. And I have been, this past weekend, Reverend Cynthia, who you're going to hear from very shortly, I swear. You know me, I get up here and I start going, right? But I swear I'm going to turn it over to her. She did this really phenomenal leadership development over this past weekend. And we were sitting there discussing what does it mean to actually be a leader? And is it just about the fact that you stand up here on platform? Is that what makes you a leader? Are you a leader if you're on a team? Are you a leader if you're actually just someone who's sitting here in the community? And Cindy Hall, where are you, Cindy? She was on fire this weekend, and she came up with this analogy that I just want to share with everybody. So she was describing, and you can talk to her for more detail about all of this later, personally. But she was sharing how initially she had been thinking about leadership as an engagement ring. And that there was the diamond facet that perhaps was the minister. And there were these smaller diamonds all around it, right? Maybe the board, maybe team leaders. And that she, for herself, sometimes sort of moved positionally where she was. Was she part of the ring, or was she one of the diamonds, or where was she in that moment? And the shift that she caught, that I think is so powerful for all of us to catch, is what about the wedding band? This open circle where everyone is in leadership. Everyone is in leadership and has ownership and understands that as a community, we are being invited to step in a new way. So last week in Think Again, one of the things that Adam Grant talked about was the awestruck effect. You guys remember that? With this idea that somehow we become awestruck by an expert. We become awestruck by someone who we think has something that we don't have. And in that process, we shut down our own capacity to bring wisdom, to bring our energy, to bring our focus and our commitment to it, because we think they've got it going on. And so the invitation is for us all to consciously look at where that awestruck effect is happening. And where are we being invited to actually engage within ourselves? Because coming out of COVID, anybody recognize this? It's really hard to get out of the house sometimes, right? I mean, let's just be honest. It's nice being at home. And you people who are on live stream right now, you know what I'm talking about. That there's this desire to just sort of stay cocooned. And there's nothing wrong with that. Let me be really clear. We need to practice self-care. We need to be conscious of when we need to step back and we need to rejuvenate and regenerate ourselves. But the invitation I want to invite us all into as a community is to sit with where have passivity stepped in rather than just self-care. Where is there a passiveness just because it's actually going to require something for me to put my clothes on and get in the car? And so we actually become lazy in our life. And it's hard. I mean, I've got my own struggles with getting out the door, right? So it requires, as we build new habits, we've been in a habit for several years of just not going anywhere. And habits are hard to break. So as a community, we're being invited to think again and just sit with, where am I being invited to activate something within myself? Where am I being invited to show up as a more active participant, right? Being a part of something, so that this beautiful community can continue to grow and to thrive and to evolve. That's where Adam Grant, I think, has the whole thing about Think Again is it's about the evolution of consciousness. And that is what unity is all about. The evolution of consciousness. Can I get another amen? All right? And what unites us all is what Adam Grant spoke to, shared values. Not our opinions, not our preferences, but our shared values and the mission that we are saying yes to. And that sometimes means that our preferences are not met. But the vision and the mission and the values are being served. Everybody hearing that? That's what we're uniting around. And that is what is asking something for us to activate within ourselves. That commitment to the values and to the mission. So I'm going to invite Reverend Cynthia up now. It's so funny because I had this quote in my talk, and then we decided she was going to do the talk, and then I was like, oh, look, great minds think alike. So I'm going to turn this over to you. Clicker.
You didn't tell me you had this in your talk. Oh, divine coincidence, right? Oh, it's so good to see all your faces face to face. Met a lot of you online, and what I am always so inspired when I work with Unity communities because they are filled with incredible people. And I really got to see that this weekend, and I want to really thank every one of you who participated. Life is an ever-progressive, upward movement of conscious evolution. Think about that for a moment. These are the words of our co-founder, Charles Fillmore. The journey of life is about a never-ending evolution of consciousness. That's what we're about. And that is what a transition is all about. It's about stepping forward, reimagining, and opening yourself to the next invitation of spirit. And I want to stop and tell you a bit more about transition. DeeAnn spoke about it a little bit earlier. This transition is not about Leanne stepping into leadership. It's about something bigger. Because you are in liminal space. I love the word liminal. It comes from the Latin, meaning threshold. And when we're in liminal space, we're in a place where we've got one foot over here in what has been, and another foot over here in what is yet to be, but we don't know what that is, right? And this liminal space that we're in is worldwide. It's not just about COVID. There is a deep invitation to conscious evolution on the planet, all around us. Peter Steinke has a statement that these times are, everything is up in the air and loose on the ground. Not necessarily a very comfortable place to be. I brought my friends with me. When we're in liminal space, there is so much uncertainty, so much ambiguity. We don't know what the future looks like. We want to move into it, we think. Maybe we want to go back there, because that feels a little bit safer. And so this little reptile within, little lizard within, kind of gets activated, kind of gets anxious, wants a little more safety. And this little guy, it's a necessary part of who we are. It keeps us safe, but sometimes it gets overactivated and it's protecting us from our own evolution. So we want to lean into this time, as uncertain as it is. And I like the dolphin image, because the dolphin has so much joy. So for me, there's a sense of freedom. And the dolphin has a developed cerebral cortex. So when that lizard within gets activated, you can call on the dolphin and begin to get more curious about the experience and look at it a little more fully. So in this liminal time, my role is to create a container for you to discover what Spirit is calling you to do and to be in this new world, how you can stand in this world in the midst of all this chaos and make a difference. You see, liminal space, as unsettling as it is, also is a time of tremendous opportunity. Another connection with the threshold comes from the threshing of wheat, where you separate the grain from the chaff. And what happens when you do that is that the floor, the threshing room floor, is covered with tiny pieces of golden grain. So in this liminal, uncertain time, we are all sitting on the gold. Sitting on the gold, and Spirit is right there calling us to be more than we were before. So in this liminal space, and thank you so much, Sky, for your music today, the prayers, everything really, really speaks to what we need to do in this time, and as does the book. This is a time where we want to open our minds, rethink again, consider new ideas, not be so attached to what was. And we need to go deeper. We need to open our hearts. Opening our hearts is opening our hearts to one another, recognizing the humanity in one another. Opening our hearts is also about listening to the whole, sensing what is alive in our community. And then there's the open will, taking all of it deeper so that we can presence God, Spirit, Source. This journey isn't under our control. Sorry. It is about what Spirit is seeking to give birth to in this world, and I believe that it is absolutely imperative that we say yes to that call. The world needs each and every one of you to show up and shine your light and to be all that Spirit has created you to be. Right. And man, I got an opportunity to see some of that light this weekend. And I look forward to seeing more of it in each of you. So the other thing I wanted to bring forward today is people really got excited when I started to talk about the shifting paradigms of spiritual community. And there's a little matrix in your bulletins. You know, I believe that you guys have heard about mission-centric ministry and minister-centric ministry, but this is also an evolution. It is an evolution of the collective. And the minister-centric perspective, you might also refer to it as the person-centric perspective, kind of revolves around the leader is kind of a parent or a hero. We defer to that individual, expecting them to take care of us. We don't have as much of our own power at this stage because we're younger, we're more immature. And so when problems arise, if we're thinking from a minister-centric perspective, well, it's DeeAnn's to take care of. And if it's not working, it's her fault. But as we progress as a collective, we start to activate the adolescent form of community, which is filled with creativity and new ideas and lots of energy. When I put this matrix together, I had a son who was in high school. And what I noticed is he seemed to be constantly hungry. And there's a hunger, there's a spiritual hunger at this level. We're beginning to sense a bit of our own power, and we can be kind of egocentric. And we can also, this is the time where we're seeking to find our own power, our own individuality. So there can be a bit of a resistance or rebellion against the leader, the hero leader that we placed in that role. But it's also a time where we begin to really be participants in what's happening. Now, because it's not a fully involved consciousness, there is a bit of a tendency for people to kind of gravitate around groups that kind of think like they do. And so there sometimes is in this space some tension between groups. It's more about my preference than something larger and fuller and deeper. So then we move forward into the mission-centric idea of spiritual community. Not an easy transition. Because in this place, it is the mission, the intentions, the invitation of Spirit that is in charge. And there's a need to sacrifice our personal preferences to something bigger, something larger. And so when challenges arise in this context, it's really an opportunity to look at who we are as a whole and say, oh, wow, this is what we've created. Maybe it's not what we want any longer, or maybe it's not what Spirit's calling us to do any longer. Maybe we need to make a few little shifts. And the shifts enable, and what they do, the shift empowers the collective whole to rise into its power, which magnifies the potential and the impact in your world. And I also want to acknowledge that this is an evolution, and none of the levels, none of the paradigms is wrong. You need all of them. You need a clear leader who organizes and brings coherence to the community. You need the collective, the community, the energy, the enthusiasm, the creativity, the individuality. And you need to bring it all in service to the whole, to the interdependence that exists in this community and really with the entire planet. So that's what we're about. I think I'm done. Yeah. That's what we're about in this transition time. And I invite you to engage as deeply as you can, to attend the processes. If you have questions, you can reach out to me, and we can set up a Zoom call. But this is about your journey forward, and I want each and every one of you to embrace it. God bless.
This is exciting, yes? Yes. This is exciting, yes? Yes. Because it really is. Like, we're on the cusp of something phenomenal, right? We're on the cusp of creating something from us. It's going to be uniquely us. It's not going to look like anywhere else on this planet. And I just want to reaffirm one of the things that Cynthia and I were talking about the other day, and she mentioned briefly here. The world needs us, right? The world needs us. The issues, the challenges, the environmental crisis, the spiritual principles are the antidote. That is the antidote for so much of what is sideways in our world right now. And so that is part of why this is so important. It's important for our own personal transformation, but for me, it's also important that this planet exists for the next generation, and the generation after that, and the generation after that. And we can be a part of that, right? What we do here today is going to have ramifications in the world for decades to come. And I know that can be a little overwhelming, like, whoa. Whoa, but it's also empowering. Can you feel the power in that? I don't know about you, but sometimes there's so much going on in the world, I feel overwhelmed, I feel powerless. But that is not what unity teaches. We teach and know that each of us are the spiritual authority that can name and claim the truth of our being into the world. That is who we are. That is what we are. And so as we get out of the tunnel vision, right? The tunnel vision that we're somehow powerless, the tunnel vision that somehow it's only about this small community here. We have to break open so that we are saying yes to the larger transformation that is available to us. What is it? The Native Americans, what is it? They make all their choices thinking about 7 generations down. That's what I want us to do. I want us to be making all of our decisions thinking about how is this going to impact 7 generations from now. Because we are that powerful. We truly are that powerful. So, I have some affirmations for you. I am willing to have an open mind.
I am willing to have an open mind.
I am willing to have an open heart.
I am willing to have an open heart.
I am willing to have an open will.
I am willing to have an open will.
And I am willing to think again.
And I am willing to think again.
And so it is. Amen. Thank you.